Thanks for coming. Grand Endeavor Homes. It's kind of an annual thing we do, building lot seminar, talk about the do's and don'ts. My name is Jimmy Warren, Matt Deputy. Sorry.
You're good.
So here's our contact information. How to win at home building. So what we're wanting to do today is try to figure out how not to get burned when choosing a home builder. So obviously we build houses, right? But we're coming to you as trying to help you guys pick the right builder for you. We may not be that guy, right? And that's okay. You know, our kids are still going to go to college if you don't build our house. So it's all right.
But if you want to buy a house from us, that's fine. It's okay.
All right. So we want you to experience the experience to be excellent. Sorry, I can't read. I got a glare here. So we want it to be excellent. We want to have a good job, have fun building the house. That's kind of what we're after. Choosing the right builder for you. So we're going to talk about that. These are kind of bullet points what we're going to go through today. How to select a home site. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the realtor role, how they come into play, if you have one. Architectural design process. We're going to talk about financing options. We've got a special guest here to talk about that. Proposals and contracts. We're going to talk through that. Permitting. Construction in general, home warranty, and at the end we got secrets and tips. So that's kind of what we'll cover.
So real quick, as we go through this is not us up here doing a lecture, it's interactive. So if you have questions, feel free to stop us. We can go through anything in detail. If we get to the point where we're designing your master bathroom for your floor plan, that's probably a little too much, but again, we'll try to stay on track, not get too far in the weeds.
Yeah. So choosing a builder, obviously do your own research. Research the builders. Some of you may or may not have found out there's builders around that end up on the news in jumpsuits. So it does happen. So you need to really do your due diligence on researching the builder. How many years of experience do they have? You know, you don't want the Dan in the van builder, you know, that just started building 2 weeks ago. So you're not going to have a lot of that now because the market's a little down. So, you know, Matt can attest when we had a hot market, you know, it was.
Everybody was a custom builder during that period, you know. There's one guy working out of a van.
Yeah, anybody had an El Camino, 2 shovels, and a wheelbarrow was a builder.
Yep.
So you want to check, see how long they've been doing it. You know, do your needs fit what the builder can produce? You know, obviously, you're coming here, you're talking about build on your lot, right? You're probably looking for a custom home. If you are not looking for a custom home, you might be in the wrong spot. I'm kidding. But so if you're looking for a tract home builder, right, you're not going to go to somebody like us, right? And vice versa. So how many homes do they build a year? That's a good question to ask. You know, hey, how many homes do you guys build a year? So, great question. We build about 100 a year. So we like that sweet spot. We're kind of us. We're not the small little builder. We're not the big box builder. We're kind of that sweet middle in between. We're very family oriented. You know, we have everybody. We're all friends at the office. We're all from around the area. Most of us grew up here in Georgetown, so we were, so I guess we can talk about Jimmy Jacobs, how it started, but with us, Jimmy Jacobs started building homes back in the 80s and then started Jimmy Jacobs Custom Homes. He sold the company. Somebody came in from Colorado, offered him a pot full of money. He sold it, cashed out. They put him on only a 2-year non-compete. We came back, you know, Jimmy and his son opened up Grand Endeavor Homes, and then we kind of started getting the gang back together. So we're actually a lot more efficient now than we were back then. I worked with them back then. We were doing about 100 homes a year then, and we had about 3 times the staff. Now we've trimmed it to where we're doing the same volume, and we got 1/3 of the staff. So our staff is just super efficient in what we do. So great question. Yeah.
Is that 100 homes per year around Georgetown, or does that include your stuff down in Braunfels?
It includes New Braunfels as well, and it includes, the whole company as a whole, what we build. I'd say about 70% of what we do is north of Austin, and about 30% of what we do is down in the Braunfels area. Get references, clients, banks, subcontractors, check them all. Please check them all. Get bank references. Call their banks. Ask them what banks they use. What do they bank with? You can call the bank. Ask them about, just ask questions about the builder. They will answer you, answer questions. Obviously, they won't go into their P&Ls and all that, but
What questions would you ask?
So, hey, how long have you been doing business with this builder? Are they financially stable?
And they can answer that?
They can answer those things. Yeah. And then obviously subcontractors, you can ask for a list of subcontractors, who they use. You can call their subcontractors, you can call all of them. I mean, if you call the first 3 or 4 and they're like, hey, this is a great builder. Yeah, they pay us on time. Everything's good. I mean, okay. So, but if you start getting red flags, i.e., I can't ever get they don't ever pay their bills, they're late to pay their bills, things like that, those are kind of red flags. How flexible are they on changes? So, when you do a change, are they flexible? Are they not wanting you to do changes? There's different builders, right? You have the obviously production style builders. You have to build their plans in their neighborhood, on their lots, plan A, B, C, D, and E. And then you have the semi-custom builders that are calling themselves custom builders now, that are really not, because you still have to build their plans and they only customize certain things, So that's kind of semi-custom. And then there's full-blown custom. There's the builder that has their own plans, or use your plans, or, design from scratch, do anything you want. So. What areas they build in? Just figure out where their geographical areas are they're building. It's good to know. You don't want to, they tell you they build in Georgetown, Texas, and you're wanting to build out in Lake LBJ, and they're like, yeah, we could probably do that. You may not want to go that route.
Part of that's a quality control thing too, right? We want to make sure our subcontractors, superintendents can get there efficiently, so that kind of defines geography for us.
What are their processes? You just want to go through the list of see how they process going through this construction process, right? What their steps, stages, what expectations. What's the average build time? That's always a question. You guys always ask that anyway, but it's a good question to ask. Different types of builders. I kind of reached on that earlier. Customs, semi-custom, kind of jumped ahead. Financial position, it's basically calling bank references, seeing how financially stable they are. Just do your research. I mean, there's builders out there that are not financially stable, and there's a lot of them now. The down market, when money's rolling in, believe it or not, there's a lot of builders out there that don't know how to budget a house. So they put a budget on a house, what they think they can make. They don't calculate, margins. They just put a lump sum in their budget. May not even tell you, probably won't even tell you this, but this is kind of what happens, and the trap the builders get into. When the phone's ringing and they're building houses, it's okay. Everything's going fine. But when the phone stops ringing, they've got nothing financially in their backlog to save for a rainy day, like we all have to anyway, right? I mean, when work's not there, you had a little kitty you have to have. Well, some of the builders don't have that little kitty. And when that happens, they start taking from Peter to pay Paul, and, that starts happening. And if the phone still doesn't ring, that's a big snowball effect, and they can go downhill fast. So, which we unfortunately we're seeing more and more in the down markets. Buyers beware. So, Matt, you want to touch on this slide?
Yeah, communication's obviously huge. If you're reaching out to whoever the point of contact is, different builders are structured differently. In some cases, you have the builder is your only point of contact. They're the guy that's selling you the house. They're the construction superintendent. They're working with the lender. But the general idea is kind of sense that, right? How quickly are they responding to your needs and your questions? If they're taking 2-3 weeks to respond to you, how are they going to behave when they're taking money from you and you're contracted, right? So just be aware of that. And that's probably a reflection of how it's going to go during the build. Yeah, our proposal's accurate and detailed. How much time are they spending with you on the front end before they put a proposal in front of you? That's particularly important in the custom world, right? Set the right expectations, make sure what's in that proposal actually reflects what you intend to build.
And also on that, I mean, there's builders out there that will literally give you 2 pages of this is what we're going to build as a proposal. And it's like,
So I've seen both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Last week, I saw a 4-page Word document for $1 million home. Is that enough detail, to go through? Absolutely not, right? And I've also seen the other end of the spectrum where it's a novel, right? That's difficult to get
Yeah.
through. So,
that's when a whole bunch of attorneys get involved in this.
yep.
80 pages thick. So, do they have an office? Kind of need to find that out. 'Cause, they could be living in the back of their truck, running around. That's their office. So you kind of want to know they have a brick and mortar place that they call home and office. So is the bidding process smooth, timely, comprehensive? Matt kind of touched on that on the bidding process. Everything's, when they're going through, everything makes sense. It's flowing well. And you understand everything. Well, what happened? Screen there.
I can barely read it.
Do they have an online presence? So check online, right? Check their reviews, things like that. Are there any past clients' testimonials or references? Get the references again. I'm kind of harping on that. How many hats do they wear? So Matt can talk about that on how many hats.
So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, some builders are literally wearing every hat. They're the one that's their first touch where they're selling you the home and kind of going through that feasibility process. And then they're also the construction superintendent. They're physically building the home. And so kind of figure out what that structure is. Like Jimmy and I don't build homes, just so you understand. If you need like a birdhouse or something like that, we can do that. You don't want us to build your house.
Deer blind.
Right. But clear delineation of responsibilities, right? Where the way I frame it, we create this complex puzzle and then we hand it to the talent on the construction team and they build it. In the background, we have people work on your loan, they're working on feasibility, they're getting all your permits. So just kind of understand where everybody's role is and how many hats those individuals are wearing.
Finding a home site. So now we're going to talk about home sites, right? We've got to understand not every lot is flat, contrary to popular belief. So topography is one of them, right? I mean, Matt and I can't tell you how many times, my lot's flat. Oh, okay.
When a
We go
client
look
calls
at-
me in Lago Vista and says, hey, I've got a really level lot, I just get my rappelling gear before I go out there. It's not going to be flat.
Easements and encroachments, you will touch on that.
Yeah, that's a big one. And this kind of lends itself into the discussion about surveys. So when I'm talking with a client or an agent that's representing the client, the very first thing I'm going to ask for is the survey. May or may not be available. In most cases they are, but you cannot stand on a lot and know about these things, easements and encroachments that are recorded against that lot. So that tells you a lot. It kind of feeds into design too. If you know that you have an easement on this side that limits you to 100 feet of width, then don't go design a 120-foot wide house. So those are important things to know.
Floodplain drainage. So you just want to make sure, it's okay to have floodplain on your property when you're buying a lot. It's just, we got to make sure that obviously the home is above the floodplain or outside of the floodplain. So
this kind of feeds into the survey thing too. So there's 2 different types of floodplain. You can have FEMA designated floodplain. Anybody can go pull that map. You can literally go to their website, put in the coordinates or the address, and you'll get that FEMA map. But there's also, if there's a subdivision study and they discovered that you have, like through that hydro study, a floodplain area that's not reflected on FEMA, that also needs to be a consideration. So that's something that you would see on the survey.
Water and well, that's just obviously understanding where your water is coming from. Is it well water? Is it city water? Anything over 2 acres, you can have a well on. Anything under 2 acres has to have city water going to it. Septic and sewer, same thing. Anything under an acre, this is Williamson County. So in Williamson County, anything under an acre, you have to have sewer. Over an acre, you can have septic, but it has to be 2 acres to have well water.
Is that in town as well? Or just county?
Typically, the county, yes, in town as well. There's some stipulations, maybe different in town for the city itself. They may have different regulations, but no, we're in
We're the ETJ.
ETJ here. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
extra
So for
territory
instance,
risk.
out here, we have some 2 acre lots plus out here. However, we need to check with the county and see if somebody wants to put in a well instead of doing city water, see if the city will allow it because we platted them to do this whole subdivision. So yeah, we've got to look into that. Power source is where your power's coming from, knowing where your power's coming from. Future development, that's just talking about kind of get an idea of what you think may happen around you.
And be
right?
careful when you're going through that process, if it's in a development and they're guaranteeing you, hey, that's always going to be a green belt. If they don't own that property, there's really no way they can guarantee that. So just make sure you know where that information's coming from.
Do you want to touch base on that client Whit Ranch you had?
Yeah, that kind of leads back into the survey thing. So we're kind of backtracking, but I was working with a client years ago and they had purchased a lot before they engaged us. And I pushed them in the front end. I really encouraged them to get a survey. They were kind of apprehensive because in that development, you can actually build off of the subdivision plat. So we entered a design agreement, which means we're kind of going that semi-custom route. They found one of our plans that they liked. We started modifying it. So finally talked them into doing this survey. We get it back. We find out that more than half of this lot is encumbered by what's called riparian corridor. There is no such variance to go the county. This was in Leander. You cannot go in the city of Leander and ask for a variance to build in the riparian corridor. So they had designed this house, kind of going back to what we talked about, that won't fit in the buildable area on that lot. So luckily that, man, they had a great attitude. We'll talk about attitude here in a minute, but they were great about it. They understood, they realized the importance of the survey. We redesigned the house. They actually love their new home. They're great clients we talked about testimonials. Folks call those people all the time, man. They're very happy.
Uh-oh. Yes.
How does one go about, if we're looking at a home site, how do you determine if there's reliable water, not just today, but 2 years from now or whatnot?
The very best you can do is look at surrounding well reports and see what the depth, right? That's where most of these well contractors work a certain area, so you can call them. More than likely they've done one in the area and they can tell you the depth they've had to drill to. But until they actually do that test drill, there's no way to know. I had a client up in Salado, they had us do the well. So at that stage, all you can do is an allowance. You set an allowance for that phase of construction. And so we set it for around 450 feet, which was consistent with projects in that area. They did the test drill, 832 feet. So again, you don't know that until you go through that process, but the best you can do is look at surrounding projects and talk with those contractors.
And if you're tying it to the city, do you just ask them how they know or what their reliability is over time?
Well, I don't know if anybody knows that. Yeah, the city's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I doubt they're going to tell you we're running out of water, so.
Yeah, they won't tell you that.
No.
So,
I'm not gonna say why people are gonna run out of water this year.
Yeah.
yeah.
They're not gonna say.
No.
No, but I mean, typically one of these years we'll get a 16-inch rain and then everything will fill up and nobody will talk about it for another 4 or 5 years. Then we'll get another drought and then everybody will talk about it again. So, all right, back on track. Sorry to jump off track, but heritage trees, that's just trees on the lot you can't cut down, right? But know your heritage trees. HOA and restrictions. Know if they have what the restrictions are, HOA, what you can build, what you can't build, things like that. You want to know all these things before purchasing land.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely get that on the front end because those HOA restrictions, the CCNRs, architectural guidelines, it'll go as far as to tell you what materials you can use on the house. So again, you don't want to go design this house that you can't build because it's in contrast with the HOA.
And really, at the end of the day, if you found a builder you like, call, like Matt and I, we'll go out and look at lots with you. If you get it narrowed down to a couple lots, you want us to go look at a lot for you. I've done it for the Coles here. Yeah.
Maybe not on day one where you're looking at 25 lots.
Yeah.
Kind of taper down to 3 or 4. Let's go.
Well, you call Matt for that.
Yeah.
We were young.
Thanks, buddy.
Under the bus.
Under the bus.
Yep. All right, small lots versus large lots. Just we kind of talked about, acreage wise, wells, 2 acres, septics, 1 acre, things like that. Just know what you're getting into there. This is just examples of where you can find lots to build on. There's acreage lots, obviously farm and ranch, pocket listings, access to MLS, tax records, things like that. Obviously, hire a real estate agent. They can help you with that. You can call Matt and I. We'd probably refer you to a real estate agent that we know. We've done that before. But yeah, we can try to help you, gather location, where you want to be, why you want to be there, help you out with that. So finding land. All right, now we're going to go into plans. Does the builder have plans? Some don't. Some of the small custom guys are like, no, go hire your architect, call me when you're done. Some builders have plans. Matt and I have probably between the two of us, I don't know, it may be up to 700-800 plans now.
Yep.
So we've got tons of plans. Should you design from scratch? So this really depends on, there's like my wife is very visual, right? So she cannot, and usually there's one in every couple, right? That's really visual, either the husband or the wife, whatever. It's really about spatial recognition, right? Because even the visual people, my wife, she can look at a plan and she just understands where the rooms are, but she doesn't understand the spatial recognition of the room, right? So with Matt and I, it's our job to help you understand how big this space is, right? So if we show you a 22 by 21 living room, we're gonna go try to find you a living room that's real close to that, or if not exactly that. Then we're gonna show you that living room, say, okay, this is what it feels like in that living room. So then you understand, because once you understand the spatial recognition part of every single room in your house, you can see how it plays together, and then you can do it that way.
That's a key word, like your house, your existing home. You're probably building because certain aspects of your home don't work, right? So I'll have clients come to me and say, our secondary bedrooms are too small. That tells me nothing, right? I need dimensions. So get into your house, let me know what those dimensions are. If it's 11 by 12 and we know that's too small, we know what those aspects need to be on the new build.
Pros and cons of architects and draftsmen. So, like I said, you can go out and hire an architect, and that's fine. Now, I'll tell you, hope there's no architects in the room because you're fixing to get offended. Maybe, maybe not, but architects don't really have concept of money, right? So they'll start designing things, and Matt can attest, we have every single client that I think 100% that brings us a plan that they've designed with an architect. We start going through it. I'm like, hey, do you understand? You understand you have all these open rafter tails? And then they're like, what is that? Well, it shows it right here on the plan. Well, I didn't say anything about that. I didn't know what that. I said, well, that's expensive. So
our first conversation, you won 3,100 square feet, and I look at the plans and they're 4,900 square feet.
Yeah.
How did we get there, right?
what happened?
They get paid on, literally, these architects, they have an important role in this whole process, right? But they get paid on square footage. So when the client goes in there, they don't have a sense of budget. They just go design what the client wants.
Yeah. But it's good to work with an architect through the builder.
Absolutely.
Because I've even, yes.
Would it be ideal for you to plan it out, not really recognize how much square footage, but kind of have an idea and then y'all can kind of give, the client kind of a perspective on how it could actually look with how you plan to design it.
Yeah, but we're going to design it the way you want it,
Right.
with our take on it. Okay, that's okay. Bedroom sizes, like Matt and I've done this a long time. If you come to us and say, hey, I need, 4 bedrooms with a game room, 1 eating area, we're going to tell you that's going to run you around 3,200 square feet. So we know that part of it. So yeah, space is key, if you know room sizes and all that, that's good.
And like Jimmy said, if we're involved and we're working with the architect kind of as a team, we can give them a target square footage and they can usually be pretty mindful of it. So when we get the first version of the plan back, Jimmy and I would put eyes on it before you even see it. Make sure it's consistent with discussions we've had.
Yeah.
So.
Because architects, they'll design you a big, beautiful home. It's just, sometimes it doesn't align with the budget. So a lot of times that happens. I mean, it's crazy.
I didn't ask was helicopter
Yes,
pad and
brings it to you guys and work with us to try to build that.
Oh yeah, we can do that, yeah. Yeah, we do that as well. So if you already have your plans, your architectural plans, we can help you with that. So we can build it. So I'm not deterring against it, I'm just telling you the pros and cons. So the pros are, right, you have a plan, you have an architect, now you get to bid it out to all the other builders, right? That's a positive part. But if you're trying to figure out which way to go, I lean towards recommending, hey, let's pick a builder you like and then see what architects he uses and then go that route, because it's better for that builder can control the pricing and not let the architect just go hog wild, right? Unless you don't have a budget, then that's fine, so.
And almost as important is the timeline too. When we're controlling that and working with our architects, we can usually turn plans a lot faster than folks that are working with the independent architect.
Right. Well,
So if there was a plan, not necessarily in person, but that you like, you can bring it to you guys and you guys can work with your architect and see whether you'll have something that already falls for you.
yes,
Yeah.
Or build us something similar.
yes, we do that all the time.
So the plans that we have designed for our clients, we own those plans. That's the difference. When somebody works with an independent architect, they have ownership of that plan. If you select us as a builder, just using us as an example, then we would design the home, but we retain ownership of the plans. What that means is if you come to me and you describe this home that you want, man, I'll call Jimmy sometimes and say, hey, I need this. I want something with a linear living room and 5 bedrooms and a game room upstairs. Yeah, I did one of those out in Leander. He can send me the plan. Then we trade plans literally all the time. So there's more than likely we're going to have something in our inventory that's really close to what you want. We just
Yeah.
need to go modify it.
Let's see, sketches. So you'll basically go to a sketch phase and then an elevation, and then you go to final plans. So the first thing you do is you would come up with a conceptual sketch. Now, I would recommend doing this even if you're working with an architect. I mean, I've got a client in here that's working with an architect. She that architect did a great job, but they kept me in the loop the whole time. And I was like part of the team to help design this plan. And it's gonna be a beautiful home we're gonna build in here. And, but the sketch phase, I got to see that first. And then I could say, oh, okay, this is, kind of get more of a ballpark on try to hone in on cost, see what kind of where we're at. And then you get the elevation. Once we get an elevation and then we can pretty much price the home out, see where we're at before we go to final plans. Because I didn't want that client to spend $40,000 on those full set of plans if they couldn't afford it, right? So we kind of go that route. So we can always backtrack. It's easier to backtrack when you're at sketch phase with the architect and redesign some stuff, maybe change some things, take a room off. That's a lot cheaper to do it then than it is after they've already done the completed full set of plans, right? So that's why we do that. Site plan, future buildings, pools, landscaping. I put this in here because even if you're not going to do the detached garage or whatever it is, casita, anything, go ahead and draw it to get it approved through the HOA So in the future, you don't have to mess with that. I mean, it's easy. We just put it on the paper, get it all approved at one time, whether you're doing it now or not. So that's what I would recommend. All right, next up, is that right? Next up, we're going to bring up Lori Lampert. We've been working with Lori for a long time. She's one of the best in the business when it comes to loans, mortgages, things like that.
Thank you.
Lori, if you want to take it away.
Because I don't have a microphone. So, I'm Lori. I've been in the business about 28 years. I work for a small broker shop. One of the big benefits of working with a mortgage broker, say working with a bank, is that we have options. So I shop the loans around wherever I can get the best scenarios for the client, best interest rate, something that fits their terms. Some of the products that we offer, have any of you ever closed a construction loan before in your name? Okay. All right. There's two ways to go about this. We can do what's called a two-step close, which a two-step close is where we go to a bank, you take out a construction loan. When the home is done, then you're going to have to refinance your house into your permanent mortgage loan. One of the more popular loans that we've been doing now over the last year and a half, especially with rates, on the incline, is we've been doing what's called a one-time close. Have any of you ever heard of that product? You're right, okay, okay. So the one-time close, I call it like one and done. There's one underwriting process. We lock your loan in for a year in advance. There's one appraisal. Everything is done just one time. You don't go to a second closing when the home is complete. So we lock your loan in a year in advance. It's always going to be higher than market, simply because the banks have got to hedge their risk, the what ifs. We have people that we locked in a year ago that are just now finishing up with Grand Endeavor. We locked them in at 6 3/4, 6 7/8, and it sounded awful at the time. Well, current market
Still sounds awful.
I mean, the national average, if you're buying a home right now, is right at about 7%. So generally, you can expect a one-time close to be about 0.75% higher than market. But the benefit to doing that is that you're locking in your ceiling. So it's never going to go any higher. Once the home is complete, so complete means the builder has taken all of their draws, we're finalizing the paperwork. At that point in time, the bank they go into whatever bank I send it to, they say, okay, great, our current market rate is X. And they automatically modify that loan to current market. So it protects your upside so you can sleep at night, a lot less stress. You don't have to worry about the fact, what if the house goes down in value, right, while we're building, because we're working off of the here and now, okay? And that's one of the things that people have a very hard time wrapping their brain around. The other good thing is, what happens if somebody loses a job, right, while the house is being built? You're protected, because again, we have underwritten you up front. We have one client that might be retiring after I closed him, did not know that, and it's fine. I mean, they're protected. So that's the beauty of doing that one-time close product.
I get the feeling it's one of my clients. Okay, yes, yeah, I felt the heat. Okay, we'll talk later. Yeah.
Now, do I have any veterans in the room? Okay, so we've got a great VA one-time close product. We've got a couple of clients here that we've actually, one was close to $2 million, the other we just closed $1 3/4 million. They literally have gotten into their house for practically zero. One, I was able to refund some of the earnest money. The other, he had a slew of upgrades, so he didn't get back any of his earnest money up front. But with the VA, I'm able to do, I can go up to $4 million, 100% financing, down to about a 620 credit score. One of the nuances, though, with the VA one-time close is that the VA does not allow the veteran to make any mortgage payments during the time while that house is being built. So as a result, I have to do a calculation where I calculate, here's what the estimated interest charges are going to be over the course of the year. We estimate what the property taxes are. And then also the VA requires that we build in a 10% contingency budget. So you can see that we're going to roll quite a bit into this VA loan up front to make sure that the veteran has like absolutely zero out-of-pocket costs while that home is being built. Once the home is complete, if you do not tap into your contingency, the contingency is there for unforeseen upgrades or changes. It's like you picked out a hardwood floor, now you don't like it and you want something else. Were you going to ask a question? Okay, all right.
The VA part.
Yeah, and so, we estimate the property taxes. I work with a lot of veterans that have a 100% disability rating that do not even pay property taxes. But given that the house is not upfront on the transaction, we're going to calculate what they're potentially going to be on just the land. So any of the unused money for the contingency, the interest, the property taxes, that gets subtracted in the end from the mortgage loan. So you're not required to finance this. It's probably, oh my gosh, probably about 15% over the cost of the home. But again, that will come down at the time of modification. So right now, I'm working, I don't remember where my veterans in this neighborhood, yeah, it's actually in this neighborhood. So right now, just as an example, I had priced out the one-time close for them, 100% financing. It was like 7 3/8% without any points. But when I went into the bank to demonstrate to the client, had you been building this past year and you were ready for modification, they would have modified into like a 6 3/8% interest rate. So it works just like the other one-time close product. And again, it takes away, the beauty of the one-time close is that you don't have to refinance. You are literally just going to modify when that home is done. Not every bank offers modification to current market. So if you are working with other banks, those are things that you want to ask them. Often they offer the one-time close, but you're going to be set for some are a 3-year arm, a 5-year arm, or whatever it is. So this takes away the ability of having to requalify and having to spend that money.
And you'd be set at that interest rate, is
You're
that
set
right?
at current market.
So you don't take advantage of with the interest rate going down on closing in that point.
Well, we take advantage, no, they get
You
the
do.
advantage of the interest rate going
Gotcha.
down.
Okay.
When you all take your final draw, at that point, we're basically tidying everything up. We're getting the final survey, we're sending out the inspectors to make sure the house is complete. Then Grand Endeavor is paid, you have your keys in your hand. This works the same whether it be one-time close, two-time close, just on the one-time close of the VA. Then once you have your keys in hand, the bank is going to start preparing what's called modification paperwork. They call their lock department and say, okay, can you please tell me, based on Jimmy Warren's credit profile a year ago, based on his loan amount, how much equity in the property, what is the current market rate? And if we're lucky, the rate is going to be lower in a year from now than it is right now. Any questions?
So you do jumbo?
Yes. We do jumbo as well. They're a little different. Jumbo's not as competitive at the VA is really like, honestly, the best thing since the folded napkin. I mean, the bank that I work with, they rolled that product out about a year ago. And as far as I know, they're one of the only ones in the United States that has it. The other ones, people that are borrowing 766.5 or below, those are your conventional loan rates. There's a lot more flexibility in pricing in those and also in underwriting because they are government-sponsored entities and it's Fannie and Freddie. And so there's a place for the bank to sell that loan once it's done. Whereas the jumbos, what's happened is we call it the secondary market, Wall Street, people that buy these mortgage-backed securities, it really has dried up over the last year and a half. I mean, I have a client, I won't name any names, that I locked in at about 3.25%, and by the time the house was done, current market rate was nearing 5%. So that bank doesn't have the ability to sell that loan, if that makes sense. So they have really towed the line, and a lot of those rates are higher than some of the other products. So that's just something we have to kind of weigh out and see. Where am I next? Bullet point.
Oh, hold on.
Okay, loan process. It's really the same. It's as though you're purchasing a home, as though you're refinancing. We collect the same documentation. The only difference is that, and this kind of circles back around with what they were saying, is we do what's called a project approval. And a project approval is where we vet the builder, call the references, trade references, banking. They even provide us references of people they've recently built for, check the D&B ratings. If it's not high enough, personal credit gets built. We also do a project approval on each individual house as well. And so what that entails is where the banks are going through the plans, the specs, the contracts. They're literally going through every single detail in Grand Endeavor's contract, making sure that the buyer is protected, okay? They also run a cost analysis. They want to make sure that they're not saying they can build this $2 million home for $1.2 million, and then all of a sudden you're left holding the bag at the end. So they look at basically market data and say, yes, this looks like this house is going to fall in line here, with what we've got. I'm going to jump, well, how are you protected? So that's part of how you're protected. The other way that these work, whether it be a two-time close or a one-time close, is anytime the builder is going to request money, what's going to happen is they're going to sign a draw request. The draw request gets sent to the bank, and then the bank sends an independent third party out here to inspect, to make sure that the house doesn't get or the money doesn't get out of the house, essentially. So this is, it just depends. Great Endeavor sometimes takes 5, 6, 7 draws. So they're going to draw throughout the process, and each time we're going to make sure that we've got your bases covered. Any questions?
Why would you ever do a two-time close?
Well, it's funny. So my first builder account was Jimmy Jacobs 28 years ago. And the very first loans I did were one-time closes. Back then, we were taught to do the one-time close because you do it, you get paid, you're out of it. Jimmy was like, oh my gosh, this is such a pain. It's changed a lot over 28 years. But until the last 1.5 to 2 years, the market rates were pretty stable. They were going down. Often you would have where the regional banks were offering really good rates on the construction loans, often a lot less than what your permanent loan was going to be. And in reality, if you really lay them side by side, the difference in closing costs is marginal. So I pivoted over the years because I felt it was in the client's better interest because we were going and getting lower interest rates during the construction term. But all of that has changed. And so, now you have some of the regional banks are even higher than, market at this point. Well, considerably higher. So it's really just depends on the market and what's going on. And our job is just really to try to figure out what is going to fit the client's needs the best. Sometimes I have a two-time close because it doesn't fit into the one-time close box. We'll have some nuances where maybe they're selling part of their business and they don't have the proceeds, or perhaps they only have 1.5 years of self-employment income and we've got to wait for 2 years. So I tap the regional banks, some of the local guys that I work with, and basically ask for a favor to put the loan through.
This may be getting too in the weeds, so I have to into it, but, and I forgot because I just said all that.
You had a question?
So earlier, I didn't get the difference between the non-VA and benefits for things to look for with the one-time close versus the two-time close. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like for a non-VA?
For a non-VA, so meaning the process or?
Well, what are the benefits between the two-time versus the one-time
So-
close for a non-veteran?
The two-time is not as beneficial as it used to be, and honestly, I have not been doing two-time closes unless I'm boxed into a corner. From an underwriting standpoint, I've got to cure something. Sometimes people have stock that they have to sell, but they can't sell it because it's in a lockup period, and so honestly, right now, that's the only reason I'm doing a two-time close is if I have to, because I think it's in the client's best interest to do the one-time close, just simply because it protects us against job loss, income decreases, possible change in appraised value. At this point, we don't think rates are going to go any higher. It was more of a concern a year ago, but it does protect them that the client closes and they go, okay, I know I'm not going to have any higher of a rate than this in 1 year from now. This is my worst case scenario. Okay, so that's really the benefit of doing that one-time close is like I said, I call it like one and done. You do it one time, it's over with, it's done. The other thing I should point out that some people, we seem to have a little bit of a difficult time kind of wrapping their brain around is whether you're doing a two-time close or a one-time close, you're qualifying in the here and now, okay? So you're qualifying with your current mortgage, your new mortgage, everything. So we have to make sure that you're able to carry all of those debts. Once in a while, we'll have something that's a little borderline. I can't put it in the one-time close box, but we can send it over to a banker that's got some good common sense. It's like, okay, great. The house is worth $1 million. They have a $200,000 mortgage. Their debt versus their income is high, but come on, they're going to be able to sell this house, right, in the next year. So, they've got good assets. This is the only fly in the ointment. So, okay, we're going to roll the dice and we should be okay.
What if we're in a position now, for example, that we know that the interest rates were very high right now? So if we were to lock in now, we kind of know, or the experts are saying that the interest rates will drop by the end of 2024 or early 2025. What would that look like if you lock in that and the rates go?
Well, you're automatically going to modify to the lower rate on the one-time close product.
Okay.
So you don't have to refinance, all right? So you automatically modify. On the conventional, I mean, I tell people, let's just take advantage of the modification when the house is complete at that point, and then we're going to sit and we're going to wait. I don't know that rates that you're going to want to refinance in a year, even if they drop. I feel that once they start to drop, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a long, drawn-out process, and you don't want to refinance once every year as rates are dropping. So, but there'll be some people that will say, well, my gosh, I'm going to save $500 and my break-even time's 18 months, so I want to go ahead and refinance right now. With the VA loan, the only nuance to that is with a VA loan, you're not allowed to refinance for 7 payments or 210 days after you modify. It's a VA rule that went into place about 3 years ago. So our veterans do have to wait that time period in order to do a refinance. Do you remember? Okay.
What's about appraised value? So if you would do a one-time close, you get an appraisal bonus. Like, we're in a community that, prices are dropping for already.
That's a concern.
owned homes.
Mhm.
And we're not even sure we're gonna be able to, that doesn't matter. But on the two-time close, will it have to be reappraised?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's one of the big bonuses of the one-time close if you're concerned.
In the scenario of having a current mortgage and then the potential vendor, the bank saying, hey, look, the numbers, where is this house, how much would it sell for? Would that fall to a one-time close product, or would that have to be two times?
It depends, well, I mean, that's more kind of like common sense underwriting with one of the bankers that I have. He's known Brandon Dever and has worked with them for probably 25 years. And he would always say, I know Jimmy knows how to build a house, so I'm not too concerned about this. And, and he knew I knew how to get the loan off his books, right? If I said, I need 2 years to cure it, like I can't get through it, or I need 1 tax year. That's more of a common sense type underwriting. If the loan is, if we have 20% equity and it's under 1.5 million, it doesn't even have to go to committee. So that's where you have someone that's like, okay, listen, they've got good money in their retirement accounts. It's just a timing issue, that type of thing. But two-time close, it has to fit in the box, meaning your debt to income has to work. We hit a wall at 49.9%. On VA loans, it's crazy. The one I just closed out here, it was 67%. If I can get an automated approval, it allows us to run them up much higher, which is especially helpful if you have a veteran that's carrying 2 houses maybe, right? Or sometimes they've just changed jobs and perhaps maybe the variable income hasn't kicked in. So I can run those up higher, but on a conventional, you're at basically 1 digit below 50.
Questions? Good. And Lori,
Thank you.
we'll get Lori's information, so thanks, Lori. All right, jumping into proposals and contracts. Different types of contracts. Fixed price, cost plus, allowance based. So, fixed price contract obviously is the way to go. Cost plus, I tend to try to stay away from. The builder has no incentive to get you the best bang for the buck on a cost plus. He makes cost plus whatever, 20%. So whatever you pick out and put in your house, he's gonna make 20% on that. And he's not gonna really be worried about getting you the best deal because he's gonna make his money, right? So allowance based, usually most fixed price contracts do have allowances in there, especially on a build on your lot situation, because it's your dirt, right? We don't exactly know what, somebody's trying to cook something. We don't exactly know, what's in your soil until we get soil samples, things like that, so.
So your well example that you were mentioning earlier, if you were gonna have the builder, Grand Endeavor, for example, do the well, we would just set an allowance because we haven't done that phase for the drill.
Let's see. Get everything in writing. It kind of goes without saying. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that, touch on that a little bit later. To the design center up front. If they have a design center, obviously the best thing to do is do that up front. We do that with all our clients. We do a preview appointment. They'll basically, once we get the plans drawn, sketched out, something, or we have a plan in place, or they picked one of our plans already, we'll start running numbers on the house, and we send them into the design center up front to kind of get a 10,000 foot view. We do a preview appointment, and that's basically, we're going in and you're gonna, you may like wood floors. Great. Here's all our wood floors. Oh, I like this one, I like that one. All right, that's a level 2, that's a tier 3. Let's price both of them out, and then we know the numbers. When we sit down and go through the proposal, we're gonna be pretty darn close to where your final price is gonna be once we, go through everything, so. How much buying power they have. We have a lot of buying power. We're doing 100 homes a year, so we have a lot of buying power. The smaller builders don't. For instance, we're probably paying $3 less on concrete per square foot. We're probably paying $3 or $4 less on lumber and framing because we order a lot more, right? So that all adds up. Change orders and fees. So change orders, they're not a 4-letter word. Basically, a change order is anything that deviates from the contract after you've contracted, right? If anything changes, it could be a paint color. Still needs to be documented down as a change order. It's because we have to notate every single change that's made, so we just keep everything straight. So, fees. There are typically fees on change orders. In our contract, it's $250 administration fee to do a change order. We don't really assess that until you start getting a little goofy with change orders. So, and really the person way back in the day, you got to blame them because they're the ones that did it, this person really, literally, it's probably 12, 15 years ago, I don't know. They'd look at all these changes. We had a list of changes. We had our back office doing 2 weeks of work on pricing all these numbers out. And then we show it to them and they're all right, here. No, we don't want any of those changes. It's like, man, we just wasted 2 weeks. All right, now we're doing $250 change orders every time. So that's where it came from.
So important distinction though, his example, yeah, the client is changing the scope of work. There's also builder-driven change orders. Let's say it's time to put in your flooring and what you picked, they no longer produce or just out of stock at that time. We would send you back to design center, and that's what most builders would do to pick something different. So unless the price of the flooring is different, they wouldn't charge you a change order fee. We literally have to go through that process.
Yeah, we have to, so. How much does average client upgrade? That's tricky. I'd say with us, it's on a building your lot situation, it's probably $150,000, $200,000.
It's all unit of measure, right? So if you're building a 2,500 square foot home, obviously you're gonna have less in upgrades than a 4,000 square foot home. So
right.
it's all kind of contingent on the scope of work.
And then if you're building a 7,000 square foot house, your upgrades are probably gonna be a little more. So, but it's good to know that up front. Yeah.
So I think I'm confused a little bit because upgrade means to me that you have a set something that you're selling, like in the model. And then an upgrade would be if I choose something else. But if we go through plans and things, and we go look at the design center and we pick something, that's just a price, not an upgrade, right?
Correct.
If it's drawn in your plans, yes.
I mean, I use the upgrade because everybody is used to that word, but really we're just pricing out something that you wanted, and this is how much it cost. And a lot of times we're custom, so I use the word upgrade because everybody's used to upgrade. So, but in theory, you're right. I mean, it's really not an upgrade. This is the cost difference between this A and B. That's it. It's a choice, right?
There's a model for every one of your plans.
Right.
Certainly not on the customs, and we get that all the
Yeah,
time.
on the customs too. Yeah. Yeah.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a client, it sounds like the first step would be to send them to the design center. They pick everything out and then you provide an estimate based off of everything that they've selected, is that right?
Kind of. Once we have plans, number one, we have to have some plans and obviously a lot to build on it. Number two, once we have those two things established, then yes, then they wouldn't select per se. It's basically just like a 10,000 foot view. I don't need them to go in and select, hey, I want this wood floor. I just need them, hey, here's this level of wood floor. There's 15 of them in here. Yeah, one of these will work. We move on to the next thing, right? So they know kind of where they're going level-wise. So not really selections. It's done in about an hour. So I know it sounds like short amount of time, but everybody goes through it, just breezes through it in an hour. It's like, boom. Now we know what kind of options and choices they've kind of going to make, and we know how to price accordingly.
So the intent's not to design the house during that, it's really to be transparent on price. I mean, we're gonna put numbers in front of you that we can execute on.
All right, permits. We take care of all the permits. Building permits, HOA approvals, septic design. So, but that's another question. Like some builders, they don't do any of that. Like you got to handle all that. So you want a builder that handles the permits for you.
So if you have a client that's got a lot already, but it doesn't have utilities brought to it and it needs water, you guys do all of that?
We can take care of it or help assist in that, right? So we will help them if we don't actually do it per se, like for instance, power. Like PEC, they need to go probably directly to PEC, but we will facilitate the meetings, scheduling stuff, all that. It just doesn't go through us because it's easier to put it in their name, right? But yes, we will help them through all those processes on getting power, electric, water, whatever they need so we can start a home and have them move in, yes. Yes?
So is the price of doing all that outside of what it's going to be in the total of the home or?
Yeah, I mean, everything is a line item on a budget, really. So whether we're talking about door hinges or bringing power to the lot, I mean, everything, there's a cost associated with all of it. So then I'll touch base on this in a minute, but don't get caught up into what's included, what's not included, what's part of the home, because you need all of it, and we're going to run the numbers on all of it. Obviously, if you've got a house a lot that already has power to the lot, that's going to be less expensive site costs than us having to bring power to the lot. So.
It has to be paid separately, since you said you guys can facilitate it or, mediate with whatever, and you talk to bringing the water, septic, or whatever to the lots.
Right.
If we would pay them directly, or that would be included.
It's a probably case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
So sometimes we can include it and do it all for them. Other times we may not be able to, depending on the situation. But yeah, it's more of a case-by-case basis on that. Foundation design, septic design, you want to make sure the builder does all that. There's LCRA, BCCP, heritage trees. So there's a lot of things that go into account on permits. There's a lot of different governing bodies sometimes. You got to deal with LCRA if you're by the water. There's heritage trees, things like that. So.
Can you say,
Yep.
What are the acronyms?
Oh, Lower Colorado River Authority, yeah. BCCP, that is,
Balcones
Balcones.
Canyonlands Conservation Program.
thank you, Matt.
and they have to permit?
Like literally, there are certain times if you fall into that jurisdiction that you can clear cedar trees, for example.
The Golden Cheek Warbler.
March 1st to August 31st, ballpark. You have to have a permit to clear cedars.
That's more around Lago,
LCRA, yeah,
Jonestown.
Lago, Jonestown, those areas. But
What's
the
that?
point of that is to know what restrictions are on the lot.
Electrical, water. We'll take care of that. All right, construction. So with us, all communication needs to go through the guy building the house, right? So like we talked about earlier, Matt discussed on how many hats people wear. We'll be with you the entire time if you choose us as a builder during construction. We'll just become less important to you once the superintendent takes over and starts building your house. Because you can call me or Matt and, hey, when's the plumber showing up? I don't know. We got to call Kyler that's building your house. So you'll just go straight to Kyler and start calling him. So that's kind of how that works. Having selections made in advance, that's a big deal. It's just easier, makes life easier. You're done. You get to enjoy the house being built. It's just better that way. We do a pre-construction meeting, so you'll do a meeting up front, meet the construction team, sit down, kind of 10,000 foot view. They'll have some questions. Go out on your lot, make sure the house placement's right, and then we start construction.
That's more or less the handoff from our role to the construction guys.
Right. That's kind of where they kick us to the curb and take over. And then in that meeting, that pre-construction meeting, we'll talk about different meetings during construction. You'll have a few meetings during construction, like mandatory, call it. But obviously you're welcome to set up meetings anytime, any day. You know, let's figure out when's best fits your schedule. We have a lot of quality assurance walks, management, the engineers. We do a lot of walks through our houses. A lot of eyes are on your house. I mean, obviously, we have a warranty program. We don't want to exercise it very often because we want to do it right the first time, ideally. But you will have warranty things. Be patient on error and repair. So on this, you will walk in your home. I don't care who's building your house. You'll walk in there and there's going to be a busted window. And you're going to look at that busted window for about 2 months. Say, why isn't he fixing the busted window? Well, here's the deal. If we pay the guy to come fix that window, a week later, another window's going to get broke. So it's just, it's the nature of the beast. So let's wait and swoop in, and when that other window gets broke, great. He's coming out anyway. He's going to fix all the windows, right, when he comes out. So things like that. Just be patient on errors you see, things like that need to be addressed. But there's like there's a rhyme or rhythm, you know, on how we do things. If we send, every time somebody has a nick on a wall and we send the painter out, I mean, can you imagine how many trip charges you're going to get charged for? So you'll have a buyer's walk. Obviously, that's where you go around, get your little blue tape and, you know, see some imperfections. If you see anything you don't like or, you know, something. Final buyer walk. And then that will create a punch list on, you know, the superintendent. I mean, every house I've built, I usually come up with about 15 items. He's got 300 items.
Yep.
I'm like,
And those 15 are among his 300.
yeah, those 15 are among his 300. I said, how'd you get 300? So anyway, again, this is why, warranty. So talk about that.
That is not a Grand Endeavor home.
No. So basically the warranty, 1 year builder warranty, 2 year mechanical warranty, and 10 year structural warranty. And that's, the builder's kind of, I call it like the bumper to bumper. 2 year mechanical, anything in the walls, things like that, 10 year structural. This is what most builders have. However, did we put this slide up?
No.
Documented program, other manufacturers. Okay. You want to talk to the...
Yeah, so important note on the 10-year structural. The state just released new regulation, I don't know, about 12 months ago. It's only required to have a structural warranty for builders for 8 years. Now, we're going to maintain the 10-year, but just be mindful of that when they discuss their warranty program. Hey, are you covering 8 because that's the minimum requirement, or is it 10? Just make sure you understand that.
Yeah, just make sure you understand.
And then the other question on warranty is figure out who's doing the work. Like for us, we do our own warranty work. Some builders outsource that. So make sure you understand who is taking care of warranty issues.
And you'll have also, you'll have other manufacturer warranties, like your appliances will have its own warranty, your HVAC system will have its own warranty, things like that. So, all right, we're almost done, folks. Secrets and tips.
So Jimmy,
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the mechanical, the HVAC warranty, and your 2 year mechanical? Is that the same, or?
Well, the 2-year mechanical, yes. So in that 2 years, if something fails on the mechanical part of it, it's covered, right? And parts, labor, the whole 9 yards. Now, if in 4 or 5 years, something happens with the HVAC system, our warranty is out. But that Carrier unit that's in your home, you call Carrier, and they're like, okay, yes, we do have an extended warranty. It's parts only, but, you know, and then you got to pay the labor. So it's a limited warranty, usually from the manufacturer moving forward. Man, can y'all read that? So I'm just going to,
Man, we can say
secret.
we can say anything we want, man.
Yeah, I know.
Can't read it.
It's the fine print.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine
Yeah.
print.
Take a picture and blow it up so you can see it.
So what it says up here is I would always recommend building for your current lifestyle. You'd be surprised how many young 30-year-olds I have come in and they're like, this is our final home. I'm like, and they got 1 kid, and I'm like, no, you think it is, but it's not.
What was this, like every 2.7 years on average, Texans move?
Oh yeah,
So, yeah, it's like
every
average.
almost 3 years. Every 3 years, Texans move. So it's going to happen. So I say build for your lifestyle, like at that time. And my wife and I, we build. Obviously, we're in the business. We love building homes. We build about every 2-3 years, and we would build for our specific lifestyle at that moment. You know, like we had the house with the nursery we built that was close to the master. And then we moved over to having, you know, we did an upstairs thing where the kids can be upstairs and we're downstairs. And we built another house where kids are on the far end of the house now. And, you know, so we've moved around and kind of done that. So I would say build for your lifestyle, you know, and unless nobody 100% knows it's going to be the last house, because I've heard it several times. And then 5 years later, I get a call, hey, we're doing it again, I know. But price per square foot. So contrary to popular belief, builders don't price per square foot. Everything is unit of measure pricing, typically. We only use the built price per square foot because in the real estate world, that's what's used, right? On used homes, that's what you go by is price per square foot. On a new build, it's impossible. You know, all we can do is kind of give you averages, historical data, you know, on what style home, things like that. Because you can understand a 4,000 square foot house with a 6-car garage and 4, you know, huge porches is going to be more expensive than the 4,000 square foot house with a 2-car garage and small outside porches. Still 4,000 square feet, but there's a lot more cost in there that's not notated in that livable area, right? So it's all unit of measure. I mean, we don't price hardly anything per square foot. It's how many sheets of sheetrock, you know, how many windows, how many doors, how many hinges, how many, you know, door handles, things like that. That's counted. Like we don't know the price per square foot literally until we're finished pricing your home out. Oh, well, look at you there. It's $250 a square foot, you know, so.
It's probably the most common question that we get though. I mean, people ask it all the time, but understand the challenge in a custom plan. It's 4,000 square feet, but what are we really building?
Builder's profit markup. So, profit markup. So builders, they tend to stay around that 15 to 25% margin is where they try to be, most builders. Markup, yes, usually everything's marked up. So when you know, like I tell everybody, look, we're a margin-based company. Any numbers that run through us, we've got to make margin on. However, you're typically getting it, obviously, our cost is a lot less than your cost. And then, so typically it usually relatively evens out to retail, maybe a little less, sometimes a little more. Like with appliances, we don't really get a good break on appliances. It's one of the things, but lumber, we get an awesome break on, right? I can buy lumber a lot cheaper than the average person, so. Building buying power, we kind of talked about that. Green building, you know, I always say build what makes sense. Green building, there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, you can geothermal, there's, I mean, all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you really want to spend the money, you can do it. You always look at the cost benefit. You know, if the payout's longer than 10 years, probably, me personally, I wouldn't recommend it. If it's less than 10 years payout, then yes, you know. But we'll talk through Matt and I, we're good on that. We can talk through that with you guys. Expectations on both parties. Just knowing what to expect from each other. You know, we're trying to make this fun. It's like a marriage. It's like a 12-month marriage is basically what it is. So we want to get along and get together and no expectations. I touched on this a little bit earlier. Don't get caught up in not included versus included. So what I mean by that is there's builders that'll, you know, for instance, like one builder may have 8-foot doors included, and the other one is just 6-8 doors, interior doors, right? You know, the regular 6-8 doors like we all grew up with, and now there's these 8-foot tall doors, which I don't know why, because I don't know anybody that's 8 foot tall. So anyway, you have these 8-foot tall doors, and you know, it's like, well, this other builder includes them. Why don't you include them? Well, we can include them, but you know, we actually now include them, but you know, sometimes there's things like that happens to where it's included with one builder and not included with another. But really, like I was saying earlier, it's a line item on a budget. It's like whether it's in this bucket or this bucket, it's still in the whole bucket. So you're still getting charged for it, right? So don't get caught up on that. You will forget to include things. That will happen. I've been doing this a long time, and my wife and I have yet to build the perfect house. Like there's always something we forgot that we were going to put in the next house, and we forgot.
We had a client that literally forgot an entire office on their home.
Oh yeah.
And this is after we had poured the foundation and dried the house in. That's a bad time to make that discovery.
Yeah.
We took care of it.
We fixed it, but yeah, I forgot about this office.
Give us a little tool shed.
Remember, we needed a second office.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a change order.
Yes, there was margin involved.
Yes, there was margin involved as well. All right, just because it's talked about doesn't mean it's not included. It's included. So I've had this happen where it's like, you know, first off, the builders, anybody you talk to, we're talking to a lot of people, right? So I know it's hard to understand. They might not remember everything conversation they had with you. And a lot of times, the client sometimes will have conversation with multiple builders they're meeting with, and they told one builder one thing, and they forgot to tell the other builder the other thing. The builder they ended up going with, they forgot to tell, they thought it was the other builder. And then, so again, get everything in writing, write it down. We're all humans, people forget.
Jimmy said my house would be done in 4.5 months.
Yeah.
Man, what's going on?
I didn't say that. That was Matt. Let's see, realtors and how they get paid. So real estate agents, they get paid typically, granted we usually have 2 buckets of money, right? We have the home money, and then we have marketing, advertising money, and that's how the kind of realtors get paid. So if you have a realtor, disclose it so we know we can pay them, We pay them typically 3% at slab pour. And, you know, realtors, they're hardworking folks. They do a good job. Don't cut them out. It's you know, they work hard enough. And it doesn't really help you any, so. Trust your selections. So when you select things, trust your selections. So we've had people all the time. They'll select something, and then 2 weeks later, like, oh man, I can't remember what I selected. I think I need to go back. I need to look. They're freaking out. And so it's okay. It's okay.
Our typical joke is when you finish all your design meetings, we're taking away your HGTV and Pinterest, and that all goes away. No more of that. Trust your
Cutting all the cable.
Yep.
Not allowed to watch it until you put it in. The last 2 things kind of coincide with each other. Building is not for everyone. Not everybody should build a house. I mean, There's a lot of people there it's good for, but there's a few that maybe you shouldn't build a house. And that's okay. If you're that person, don't build a house. So not everything's going to go perfect. It's not a perfect world. And attitude's everything. Just have a great attitude. I mean, like I said, it's like a 12-month marriage with a builder, whoever you choose. It's like, you're going to go through some ups and downs. At the end of the day, we, as Granite, we're going to do it right. We're going to try to make it as pleasant as possible going through the process. That's what we're trying to do. Just go along for the ride.
There's literally hundreds of thousands of components, a lot of human beings involved with this process. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be errors. So to Jimmy's point, just have a good attitude about it. We're going to fix it.
Yeah.
A reputable builder, not just us, they're going to make it right.
We're going to see you at the grocery store. We want to shake your hand, say hi.
How do you know if you're not the person to build a house?
So that's a good question.
Like, do you want me to give you a few names? Because I can.
You're fine. Y'all are good people. Hey, just so you know, I try to weed those out before we get where we are with you guys. So I would have like been dropping calls by then, not calling you back. So yeah, I mean, there's a few people like Matt and I will meet with them. And it's like, you know what? Maybe we're not a good fit, and that's our. You probably shouldn't build. I mean, Anyway.
People that are in a hurry, right? That's a good example. We get a lot of folks that come in here and they assume that a custom builder has inventory homes and stuff they can move right into. It's a journey. I mean, in most cases, you're looking at a year. Maybe we beat that, but I tell all my clients to prepare for a year. So you need to get into a home quickly. Man, going through that route's maybe not the best path. You got to budget time to design the home, get to your meetings, close a loan. So it can take a while.
Yeah. And like machinists, they're the tough ones. Like, Jimmy, that base plate was a 1/16 of an inch off. I said, wait for the barometric pressure to change. It'll be a 1/16 off the other way. It's like, people, too exact, too should be done the way they want it done. It's like, no. So,
one of my clients, we just finished their home. He's an 86-year-old retired engineer. That was fun designing that house.
Oh man.
It was interesting.
It was great to hear the updates in the meetings every week.
Maybe to listen to, not to give them. But,
It was to hear, yes.
But I mean, house went great. They're super happy. So
Well, there's one thing I skipped over. It was escalation clause. Mm-hmm. We jumped over that. So I do want to talk about escalation clause. So since the lumber happened, right? Everybody knows about lumber. It went up about 2 or 3 years ago. That went crazy and spiked. Now it's dropped all back down. So just about every builder has a escalation clause in their contract. So ours, just so you know, ours is 10% over the major component items, i.e. windows, foundation, lumber, framing, things like that, roof. It's 10%. If it goes up to 10%, we cover it. If it goes over 10% escalation, you cover the last, whatever it's over. So if it goes up 12%, you handle the 2%. We handle the 10. So we did that because back when lumber went crazy, nobody had the escalation clause, right? So we paid out $2-point-something million. That's what it cost us. But we didn't go to the clients at that point. It's the ones that had contracts we didn't go to. Now we put that escalation clause. We only had to do that a couple times when lumber was just, there was times where, Jimmy, how much is it going to be build my house? I have no idea. I don't know.
Well, it makes sense, right? Like if it was very volatile, you'd have periods where it was $700 per 1,000-foot board, and 35 days later, it's $1,400 for the same package, right? So if you're bidding it, right, you're doing it based on $700, and by the time we order your framing package, it's jumped to $1,400. That's a lot of volatility, right? But to Jimmy's point, we haven't seen that, since 21?
21.
Yeah, it's been a long time since.
So it's been a while.
Do you feel like the lumber cost is pretty much?
Yeah, it's
Very stable right now. You can look at it on NASDAQ. It's publicly traded. So you pull it up on NASDAQ, you can literally look at charts.
It's pretty stable. And I think the whole, everything's kind of dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped over the last couple of years. And right now we've been stagnant on pricing. which is good for us because it's easy to bid a house, right? And comfortably have conversation on what things are going to cost. And then, so it's been stagnant for probably 8, 9, almost a year now. So that tells me historically, when that happens and those interest rates start dropping, those house prices are going to start going up. So it's just going to happen. The phones,
Is labor the same? or-
labor's the same. Usually labor is if they don't have work, they're willing to do it for less money. When things start getting busy, they're wanting their old money back, like how much we used to pay them or more. So yeah.
Typically, you're right, like labor and material pricing works inversely with rates. When rates drop, pricing goes up, and then the opposite happens when it comes down.
Yep. So I know it's an old cliche, and I know I work for a builder, but now is the right time. So I think so. Questions?
You guys may have mentioned it earlier, and I missed it. I'm just curious if someone in here, if we own a piece of property, and we have access to water and whatnot, but there's trees and such, do you offer like support and like locating the house and like?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, we do all that.
And we can handle the clearing. Like if he wants to do the clearing, we can do that.
Yep.
So. But important to know, again, we talked about different builders are structured differently. There are certain builders that do not touch flat work. Do you want to go build a home and have to go outsource your driveway and all your steps and lead walks and AC pads? So find out if that's something they will or won't do.
Yeah, we do turnkey construction. So like we'll do everything. Any other questions?
How far out you go? How far out?
How far out? So our footprint's basically west, we go all the way out to LBJ, Kingsland area. South, we do not get in the city of Austin. So
Shocker. Yeah.
anything north of Lake Travis, we build. We don't do Lakeway, any of that. Yeah. East, we go, what's that?
No, nothing
Not in the city.
proper. No.
Now we
We would be retired if they would let us, but
what's that? Yeah, it's dealing with it's all it is we don't want to deal with the permits. Like all the delays and, I mean, literally the last one I did in Austin, it took us 9 months to get a permit to build a house. And I said, you know what, I could have built 3 houses in that time, back in that time. But we don't deal with all that red tape, no. East, we go all the way to, what's that? Marble Falls.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Burnett,
A lot out
Bertram, Marble Falls, Kingsland, all that. Land passes.
Yeah.
Yep.
South part of Bell County, we'll go up there.
North, we go up to
South part of Bell County.
is that where I said
Belton, that area.
Bell County. East, we go Thrall.
The farthest east we've gone is Davila.
Davila, well, Thrall's pretty good.
Yeah,
Thrall's kind of,
that's more southeast.
Southeast.
This is more northeast, but yeah.
and then obviously we have a division down south in New Braunfels. We've got a subdivision down there. They also do building a lot. Same kind of deal there. Tyler's one of our guys down there that can help you out if you're looking in that area. I don't know exactly his territory, but down New Braunfels, Canyon Lake, all that.
South, closer side of San Antonio. Don't like to build San Antonio also.
Yeah.
Don't like to build in San Antonio.
Yep.
Permit stuff as well.
Right.
Skiing, around that area. And so, yeah.
Good deal.
And Gerald, would that be considered?
Yeah, Gerald's fine. Gerald's good. We can do Gerald. What's that?
Like the south part of Bell County, Belton, Salado. We do a lot of stuff in Salado, so.
We already own our lot,
Mhm.
and we want site evaluations,
Mhm.
down, work on plans, coming up with numbers and all that. What's the cost associated with figuring out that y'all are the builder for us?
Nothing.
Good question though, because some builders do charge for that.
Yeah,
We
some
don't, but
yeah.
that's a great question. Yeah.
I forget, some builders do charge. We don't
Actually, I
charge.
get that reaction sometimes when I go to a site
The
eval.
question was
they're
how
shocked
much
that
do
we don't
you
charge
charge
for it.
to
So
do a
it's pretty
site
common for them to
evaluation?
charge.
Nothing. Just for you, Coles.
They're gonna bury you.
What's that?
I don't have my
Oh,
glasses.
Flex Cash. Yeah, so we're doing a $40,000 incentive Flex Cash this month of March. If you sign contracts by then, we knock off 40 grand. Could probably even do it on a design client as well. So, yeah. Any other questions? Oh, we got a drawing, right? Did everybody know that we were drawing for something?
Yeah, that's what we told them.
That's why they're here, yeah.
That's why they're here, I know. I'll just get the cooler and leave. You want to pick it?
Me?
Yeah, go for it. Here, I'll hold the bowl. Let Rachel do it.
Rachel, you
Go.
Oh my God. I don't even want to look.
Let me see.
Matt, deputy?
Matt Deputy, what the heck? Kelsey Richardson.
Nice.
Hey! You actually did, you like went like this when you knew we were gonna pick your name. You got a cooler.
Yeah,
That's hers.
it's right there.
Yeah, we'll help you with that. Yeah.
That's a different drawing, yeah.
Well, appreciate everybody coming. Obviously, we'll stick around here. Lori's still here. Yep, she's back there talking to somebody. So Lori's still here. We'll be around here. Y'all welcome to come up, ask questions. We've got cards. Rachel and Lindsay will be here also.
We also have some of the cooler bags throughout the house and up here, and some wine cups.
Oh, we got some goodies. All right, wine tumblers and bags and stuff. Good deal. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank y'all.